Okay. All right. Shalom, everyone. I want to start today's class by doing some readings with you. And with the readings, I'll be sitting down primarily. But before I sit down, there are several grammatical issues that need to be raised regarding the issues of the reading. And so let me do that at first as part of the Mavo. The Mavo means the introduction to a session that we haven't done yet, which is a session dealing with Kriya. As long as I'm using Hebrew words, let me write those words down on the board. And what we also do when we write words on the board is we try to syllabicate so that we don't forget the previous knowledge. The word kriya comes from the Hebrew roots to read or the word to call. The root letters are the kuf letter, the resh letter, and the aleph letter. Notice the word kriya has three of the letters that make up the root, which translates as to call or to, even has multiple meanings, to read, to call, etc. As you see the word kriya, you begin with the letter consonant kuf. Underneath it is a shva. A shva under the first letter, without exception, is always a shvana. You then go on with the next combination. Hebrew syllables do not have a CIN by itself. The next combination is the letter resh, followed by the long chirik. Make sure your eyes are able to see a chirik followed by the yud. There's no dagesh in that yud, no dot. So that yud is not a consonant, it is the marker of a long E, a long E, a long chirik. CINCV, it appears to be that first syllable. Long vowels are regular in an open syllable. An open syllable is a syllable that ends with a vowel. A syllable that ends with a consonant is called a closed syllable. So the first syllable is regular. The second syllable, look very carefully, is the consonant aleph, the kamatz underneath. And we told you multiple times, if a word ends with the letter hey, treat the hey not as a consonant, but as a vowel marker. In this case, the vowel is the sound of the ah. So we put the C in brackets to suggest that it really should just end with a vowel. You don't need that hey. The reason for the hey is because back in the day, you didn't have vocalized Hebrew, and that hey letter played the role of a sound for the ah. So that's why the hey was put there. Anyway, the Kriya is what we'll be doing this hour, and I'll be sitting for it. But the Kriya also has two grammatical notes that I'd like to go into. One of them is that word ma. The word ma is the Hebrew word which means what. And as you see me write the word down, you'll see me vocalize it with a pata followed by the hey. The syllabication will be CV and the hey is in brackets. Now that word ma literally has a short vowel, open, 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 open syllable, which explains why the next word, if you have a text in front of you, will have a dot in that letter shin.
Oh, what page is it, by the way?
We're not there at the pages yet, but I'll be looking at pages, since the question is asked, from 27 and on. We're not there yet. The main thing is to just get a grip for this. Now, word ma, even though it's an individual word in appearance, the word ma falls on the next word. It's as if it were the first syllable of the next word. And given the hey is not a consonant but the sign of a vowel, it's as if I didn't write the hey out. And now you can see the patach by itself needs to be part of a closed syllable, and that is why the letter shin in the phrase ma shimcha, what is your name, part of the kriya that we'll be going into, is going to have a dagesh in it. And the question is, why would a shin beginning a word have a dagesh kal, which we only associate with the six Pegakepha letters? And the fact that the shin has a dot in it would imply that dot is not a dagesh kal, dagesh chazak. And the dagesh chazak is because it's closing the short patach underneath that pamem. That's the reason why there's a dot in that shin. Now forget about the mas shimcha combination. Let's look at the word shimcha itself. If you see the word shimcha in text, which I'm writing on the board right now, you'll see the shin with a chirik, and then the next letter has a dot in it. And then there's a shva underneath that mem, and then the last letter, the kaf letter, is a chaf sound. What's going on here? If you see the word without thinking, you would say the word is mashimcha. That's how Israelis say it. Mashim, shim. When you say shim, then you're closing that first syllable with a shvanach. The reality is there's a dagesh in that mem, and that's the problem. Writing without vowels, you don't see this, you don't feel it, you don't understand it. I am writing Hebrew with complete grammar involved. And so I note the spelling of Shimmecha is how I say it, not Shimcha, a mem with a dot and mem with a shva under it. A new concept we have not seen. If a letter in the middle of a word has both a dagesh and a shva under it, the dagesh is chazak and the shva is a shvana. That's why I'm pronouncing the word mashim, shimmecha, not mashimcha. That's a dagesh chazak, correct. And we'll see the vocalized hero. She has it vocalized properly. And the way to, another way to show that is you'll notice I'm saying shimmecha, the final half letter. If this were a shvanach by saying shim, then it should be mashimcha. Then that should be a dagesh kol. A bega kefal letter following a vowel would not be plosive. Following a shvanach is like saying following a consonant, it should be plosive. But the word is not plosive at the end. Even the Israelis would say shimcha. They don't say shimka, but that's what you have to say if this truly is a shvanach by saying shim. So that's a major problem which is not discussed at all by Edna Coffin. I am discussing it with you. Again, the final half letter is written not like this or like this. You draw the dwar down and you'll notice the kamatz to imply masculine singular. What is your name? Masculine singular.
So pronounce it in modern Hebrew?
Mashimcha. Not shimcha, mashimmecha. You sound that shvana nitamem. And then there's another expression that we're going to read about. How are you? Mashlomecha. Notice how I write out the word. Notice how I write out the word. You got a constant shin, a shvana. You have the lamed, long cholam, ci and cv. And then you draw the line. The long vowel should be part of an open syllable. Israelis don't bother to do that. They pronounce the word by blending the mem with the cholam before. They say shalom. By doing that, you have a long vowel in a closed syllable and therefore irregular. It should be accented. Mashlom ha. But that's the wrong pronunciation. The long vowel is part of an open syllable. Second syllable, C, ayin, shvana, CV, the half letter with a kamatz is its vowel. So let me give you the rule. If in the middle of a word you have a long vowel followed by the shva, the next letter, you treat the long vowel, let's put a vav in there, as a vowel, and you break the syllable there. You don't blend it with the shva that follows. Or to put it differently, a shva under a letter which follows a long vowel, chances are it's a shvana, not a shvanach. Okay, those are the two words. The word shlomcha, how are you, is from the word shalom. How's your health? Well, it's not health, but how's your totality? How's your peace? And these are pronominal endings. We don't even know anything about that yet. That implies masculine singular. In the case of a female, it's mashlomech. Again, we're far from these exercises, but just to get you into it, mashlomech. That's feminine singular. Mashlomecha is masculine. And mashemech, in the case of asking a woman's name, shemech. Shemecha is masculine. Okay, with that said and done, let me now follow Edna Coffin. She has her own way of introducing the readings. She has it vocalized, she has it unvocalized. And when she has that ma word, the next word will have a dagesh chazak in it, unless the next word cannot have a dagesh chazak, like with laryngeal letters. And if we see such a word in her readings, I will stand up and I will put it on the board.
Okay, then I have to focus the camera. So
Okay.
I'm gonna sit down.
I am going to sit down. Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah. we had a compromise right there.
All right.
Henceforth, we're still continuing.
Okay, before we start the actual reading itself, Edna Coffin has three phrases in Hebrew, unvocalized, vocalized, and English translation. It's her way to encourage the students at the University of Michigan to get on their horse, as it were, or get in their tank and start the motion that's going to start them to get into spoken and written Hebrew. The first word given is savlanut. Again, if I was standing, I would write the word on the board, but let me do it orally. Savlanut has three syllables. The first syllable is CVC, the samach, the patach. The shva needs the letter bet there, is a shvanach, and the vet letter closes the patach that precedes it. So you have a regular CVC short vowel. Second syllable has the lamed with a kamatz. The kamatz again, the long kamatz for our purposes doesn't function. Now, then the medial kamatz is either open or closed syllable. And I'm looking at the kamatz and the lamed. There's no shvanach following letter, the nun. There's no dagesh chazak in the following letter. I assume the syllable is open, which it is, and so it cannot be a short kamatz. If a short kamatz is part of an open syllable, it must have the accent. But then again, where should the accent go? Look at the third syllable, nut, CVC, long vowel, close situation, definitely needs the accent. So the accent is regularly expected on the last syllable. The kamatz is either accented or one place removed from the accent, and that's what you see here. From the word savlanut, you get the word patience. And patience deals with the notion of pain. Meaning what? You just got to be patient. How many times have you been told that by a rofé, by a doctor, or rofa, by a female doctor? Patience, patience. What about grade change? Patience, patience. But until the thing is fulfilled, you go through a lot of pain, a lot of anguish. And so, are you saying, Professor, that there's a connection between the word patience, and I don't mean patience, P-A-T-I-E-N-T. That's what you'll become if you don't have patience with ENCE spelling the word. And let's see if there is that combination. And if there is that combination, that only underscores a thing I've said multiple times, that in the Hebrew language, it's wonderful to see roots because the roots will give you multiple associated words that are related in meaning by virtue of having the same roots. I'm looking for the word Sevel. I'm looking at that word Sevel, and I've seen the translation burden, load, drudgery for the translation of the word for pain. Same three letters makes up the word patience. That's what you need when you're suffering from frustrations. Savlanut, savlanut, savlanut. And it's interesting that the word savlanut basically has the same root as the word for pain. Next phrase she has, Kol chachalot kashot. All beginnings are difficult, which is a nice way of saying to every student, no matter how bright you are, don't expect mastery in the first lesson. Expect savlanut. Expect sevel. Expect pain. No matter how bright you think you are, that's what's going to happen when you study a new subject. How much more so a language that's completely different than your Indo-European knowledge of English or whatever languages you might know from Indo-European culture. That first word, code, what's interesting about that word, and I need to stand on this one, so please bear with me with the cameras. The word code, as I get up from my very body and write the word on the board. Listen to how I say the word code. The word code sounds like another word. That's part of the language. You hear a word, you get confused with another word until you see the word in context. That word code is spelled this way in the text with a kaf letter and a kamatz. The other word code is spelled this way. There's a relationship. Both letters have the K letter which is a velar sound. They both have a liquid sound to it, but one is a word for voice, kol, with a kuf letter, and this word with a kaf letter is the word all. But notice it is CVC, and notice I'm saying the word as kol, as an O sound. You would think if it's a closed syllable, it therefore must be accented, and a kamatz in a closed syllable is therefore a medial kamatz. I do not accent that word. The accent falls on the next word, like the word ma. That word looks independent, it depends on the next word. The word code looks independent, but its understanding is the next word. So this is treated like a CVC, closed syllable, unaccented. The accent really is on the next word. It's an or sound, or, cold. The Ashkenazim have no problem. Whenever they say a kamatz, it's always an or sound by them.
So the Ashkenazis say oh,
They will say or.
it's different than the ah.
Not an ah, or.
Oh.
The Sfaradim also need to say or. This is a short kamatz, unaccented. If this were an ah sound, then the accent is there. You assume it's a one word, it's a CVC, it gets to the accent. Not all monosyllabic words are accented. They depend on the next word. That word kol, which means all or every, by itself is incomplete. It means every what, and so it's the next word that it depends on.
What about kulam? Kol, kulam?
Well, when you have kulam already, then you're having the word kol with pronominal endings, all of them. We haven't seen words with pronominal endings. Same thing is true of the word et. When you want to say et as a word of pronominal ending, it's ot, me. But we haven't seen pronominal endings in our grammar. We haven't even seen grammar yet.
Pronominal ending
Means the pronoun represented by an ending. Pronominal means pronoun. We'll teach you the fancy grammatical terms when we get to them. Anyway, kol hatchalot, and the word beginnings, hatchalot. As long as I'm standing, let me write that word out for you. That word should be done orally, which is what I was going to do, but that word kol had to be written out. The word hatchalot, as long as I'm standing, kol hatchalot. First thing you do is make sure you write with the proper vowels. And then you start. The hey has a patak. Patak should be part of a closed syllable. One of the two features of closed syllables is shva needs the next letter. That's what I see. I treat it as a shvanach. And notice the bega kefir letter. If it follows any vowel, it's not going to have a dagesh kal. It could have a dagesh chazak, but in this case, it's being closed as patak by a shvanach. And now the next syllable has a kamatz under it. If this were a short kamatz, closed syllable, I don't see a closing feature in the lamed. No dagesh chazak and no shvanach under it. I assume it's an open syllable, which it is. The last syllable is CVC, and its long vowel closed situation gets the accent. And the medial kamatz is either accented or one place removed from the accent. If this was meant to be a short kamatz, then the accent should be on the short kamatz. It's irregular if it's open, if it's a short kamatz.
So whether it's a short or long command, it depends its relationship to where it's positioned in the sentence and what's before or after it.
Yes, I would say to make it simple, if it's a short kamatz, closed syllable, unaccented.
And the other option?
And if it's a closed syllable accented, it's a medial kamatz. Like
the kamatz looks the same. It just ends up in the pronunciation of it.
That's right.
So whether it's a short kamatz or longer kamatz, the kamatz goes to.
It looks the same.
It looks the same, but the sound is
it's different.
Like shofar burst is different.
All right, watch what I'm going to do. The word kulam, for example, all of them. That's how you write that word. All of them, kulam. Notice as I syllabicate kulam. Again, chol chachalot kashot. All beginnings are difficult, which means savlanut, patience, which means repetition, 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 and then it becomes natural. I start my syllabication. The kaf letter has a dagesh in it. Bega kefir letters beginning a word. Again and again and again I say this, have to be plosive. And that's what that dot is, dagesh kal. I then notice the vowel is a short vowel kibbutz, short vowels, closed syllables. I look at the lamed and there is a dagesh in that lamed. There's no question that's a dagesh chazak. The lamed is not a beggar kefir letter. It cannot take a dagesh kal. So if it's not beggar kefir, it has a dot in it, there's no doubt about it. It has to be the strong dot. And then you'll notice the doubling of that lamed. The second lamed has a kamatz under it in the mem. Here I have a kamatz in a closed situation. Should this not be a short kamatz? No, the accent is on the last syllable. And therefore a closed syllable with a kamatz is a medial kamatz, not a short kamatz. That's how I know to read it as kulam, not kulom. It's repetition, it's thinking of how the word is vocalized when you write with vowels. That will help. Without vocalization, there's no way you can figure this out.
Just one thing to review. Just want to use the want to read spana or spanach.
Again, the shvanach is a sign for a closed syllable. A shvana is a sign at the start of a syllable. Depends. In the middle of a word.
And what does it sound? What do you actually sound it like in the middle of the word, rather
Well,
than
even if you sound it, because the Israelis don't sound it, they'll say shim where it should be shimcha, they go shimcha.
Is it like is it used as a syllable break then? In modern language, my question would be in biblical literary Hebrew, what would be the way to know the?
I understand your question. Biblical Hebrew is without vowels. Modern Hebrew, for our purposes, with vocalization, comes in when vocalization started, and that's certainly by the time of the rabbis. And then you have different types of vocalization. There are three types of scriptural vocalization. We are familiar with, I believe, called the Tiberian system. There are two other systems.
What are they called?
There's one that the Samaritans use. They have two different names to it. Same letters are there, but they have different vowels.
And the Phoenicians had the same alphabet, no?
They have the same kind of alphabet. Or our alphabet is ancient Phoenician.
So what is really original Hebrew?
It's called Proto-Hebrew. We don't have original Hebrew. The Hebrew as a Hebrew alphabet does not exist.
Then what do we do?
We have an Aramaic alphabet.
But still, through that Aramaic alphabet, whether you want to call it, the Torah is expounded, the secrets of the Torah, in the Gematria.
I hate to disappoint you. The Aramaic, the Torah, the oldest Torah scrolls that we have
Are Hebrew or Aramaic?
are the Dead Sea Scrolls.
They're Hebrew?
It looks like the Hebrew that you're able to read. The Dead Sea Scrolls at most go back to second pre-Christian century as far as their books are concerned. The question is that Moshe Rabbeinu walking down from Sinai and carrying, let's say, the Ten Commandments, if you see the film, The 10 Commandments by Cecil B. DeMille, you'll notice that the Hebrew there is not at all a Hebrew you're able to recognize. That's the Proto-Hebrew, Sinaitic Hebrew. That word Hebrew itself, quote, is not.
Does that Sinaitic Hebrew have, is it an alphabet you could reference?
Just let me finish. That so-called Hebrew is not Jewish. That Hebrew belongs to a group known as the Habirus, that very word itself, of which we claim that our clan of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is a remnant and the existing remnant of that clan.
Also from Ur Kadeshim.
You got Mesopotamian coach, you got everything in this thing. But as far as the usage today, we say the Hebrew alphabet, Hebrew this. The same thing with Yiddish. Yiddish is written with Hebrew alphabet. Yiddish uses the same letters as Hebrew does, and if you want to be frank about it, the scholars tell us these are Aramaic letters. But after a while, who knows about Aramaic? So it's called Hebrew, Hebrew, Hebrew. And I guess the point I'm going to say right now is, did they actually speak the Hebrew as I'm speaking it right now? I am basing myself on grammatical Hebrew as it is vocalized in the last 2 centuries or more than that, naturally.
So what about for like the vocalization?
No, wait a minute, Baruch. If you take a Yemenite, when they read their Hebrew, their pronunciation may not be Mashlomaha. They might use a different type of Shloma. It's how they say the word. But if they're sitting in a classroom and learning Nikud, learning vocalization, this is how the Mored, the Morah, the professor needs to teach them with this type of vocalization. And this vocalization is, quote, not ancient. By ancient, I mean going back to Moses.
But either way, this is what you need to read the Torah properly.
Well, the proper tradition is basically following this type of understanding of the unvocalized words in Hebrew.
Exactly. But you'd be referencing them, using that to practice to read the Torah. You use that as your practice. When you go read it, read it unvocalized.
When you read the Torah, you have to read from a book. You first practice the reading. You don't walk into reading about Korah and start reading, without practice. You look at a vocalized Hebrew text and you rehearse it a number of times. And a big problem with that is it becomes part of your memory that when it comes to reading the Torah, Bereshit Bara, you close your eyes and you're not looking at the Torah, you're reading from memory. That's when you get slapped. You have to read the text as it is. If it doesn't say Bereshit, if it says Sinai, if it's the first word of the Torah, that's what you should read, the word Sinai. And that's why you have two, shlichim, if you want better words, two messages alongside the Balkore who have a vocalized Hebrew, which they're able to read to help the Balkore if he makes an error.
Usually it's just one. I've just seen one. And you got two. That's Ashkenazi. If it's a
Well, I could just say Ashkenazim have two, and that's one on both sides. If there's only one, then there's one. Which raises the question, can you have the reading of the Torah if you don't have somebody that can correct you alongside? My understanding would be no. There's got to be somebody with a vocalized text watching how you read. And then to get further into it, as long as you're raising this issue, if there's one error in the text itself, that's right.
Have you read the Torah? Do you know how to read the Torah?
No, I do not. I don't claim to be. If I do,
I was just curious. I mean, you're biblically a Torah, Hebrew scholar.
But it's not the same thing as reading unvocalized Hebrew from the Torah. You have to practice it.
Yeah, no. I never read the Torah. I mean, when my nephew did bar mitzvah, I did the tropes and I know how to read it and I did, but I myself, I never actually read it.
I did some readings with my family. In a sense, my sister's granddaughters, I guess. My sister became now a great grandmother now of a boy that's finally born in the family. Anyway, no, I don't read the Torah. And even if you know how to read Hebrew, you got to start some, because the Torah has readings, and then you have a thing called Ketiv and Kri. The writing is one way, but you read it another way.
Let's get back on track and continue.
Okay, let me get back to our Hebrew. Okay, well, you carried him away with this question. Anyway, let me get back to what I'm doing right now. This is the accepted pronunciation as far as grammatical Hebrew goes, and that's what I'm phrasing right now. The main thing is, one more time, I need to re-say this, that spoken Hebrew may not follow the grammatical lesson I'm giving right now. Ma shlom cha is what they say in the streets of Israel. It should be shlom mecha. Ma shimcha is what is spoken. Should be ma shim mecha. So keep that in mind as we now go back to our words. And then finally, her last word of encouragement is b'chatzlacha. And let's get that word on the board since it's so important. The word is chatzlacha, b'chatzlacha, with good luck. Or her translation, she has simply good luck. All right, well, let me just show you a problem now with Edna Coffin's English. The word is hatzlacha. Again, we're talking about language proficiency. I have no question with the word being spelled out. It's CVC. You all see that shva in the tzadi? That shva is a shva nak. That tzadi is blended to the pat like before. They have a closed syllable, CVC. The second syllable is CV. A chamatz open syllable. The third syllable is CVC. The chamatz in what appears to be a closed syllable is a vowel marker. That's the hey at the end. The word has three syllables, accents on the last syllable, and the chamatz is either accented, medial chamatz, or one place removed, the regular formation of a medial chamatz open syllable. It could be open or closed, but if it's closed, it has to be accented. And I guess if you want to argue it, isn't this a closed syllable? But the letter hey at the end is a vowel marker. And even if it's a closed syllable, the accent is over that closed syllable. Now, why the word bib? The word bib means with or in or on. And somehow for her, the translation in Hebrew of good luck means with good luck, literally. So the Hebrew has mehatzlacha, with good luck. English does not have that. English has the word simply good luck. Okay, I'm now sitting down as I have to, as we now do the readings themselves. I'm looking at page 28, and what you'll have are two columns. The column to the right is unvocalized Hebrew. The column to the left is vocalized. My point again is always look at the vocalized column to get the proper pronunciation. The word is ma shimacha. Look at the letter ma, and what we said about that patachanit mem is a short vowel, open syllable, needs to be closed, and look very carefully. The shin letter should have a dagesh hazak in it. If it doesn't, then it's missing. And that dagesh in that shin is a strong dot to close the patach underneath the hay. Okay. Sorry for that momentary departure. There was a knock on the door. Whenever there's a knock on a door that's in a closed room, you got to be very careful who's knocking. It could well be an angel. And indeed, the one who did knock is an angel who desperately was saying, please let me in. So we have visiting angels that come into the classroom. They don't go through doors, they don't go through windows, they act like human beings. That's what happens when angelic forces are on earth. They are in the image of a human being. Mashimcha is that first phrase. Again, that patach anit, that mem, short vowel, closed by the gesh chazak and the shin. And again, look at the word shimcha, shimecha. See the mem letter? There's a dot in it. That dot has to be a dagesh chazak. The mem is not a bega kefir letter. There's no other choice. And the strong dot in that mem is closing the chirik underneath the shin. So it's CVC, that first syllable. And again, I repeat myself. A letter in the middle of a word which has a dot and a shva. The shva is a shvana. The dagesh, the dot, is a dagesh chazak. Further proof is a shvana. Look at the last syllable, ha. If that were a shvanach, then it would be mashimka. It's mashimecha. Ha. The bigger careful letter is spirant or continuance because it's following a shvanach. Page 28 on top. With the question, what is your name? We have different responses. Shemi David is the first name. My name is David. Now let me be very particular about all this. If indeed the last syllable of a word can affect the word that follows, then to be grammatically accurate, the word Shemi ends with a long chirik. The name David, there's a dagesh kal in that name David. Make a careful as beginning a word, have a plosive sound to it. But what if the word David immediately follows the word Shemi? Shemi David, Shemi David. If that's so, then the Dalet should not have a dagesh in it because it appears to be a dagesh chazak. Just a thought. She doesn't bother to mention any of that. She doesn't bother to indicate that. The name David. The name Moshe. If you look very carefully in her writing, she has a Holam Chaser, a media Holam after the Mem letter, and also the mark of the Shin. Israelis don't write that way. If a Shin letter follows a media Holam, you write one marker, and that serves both as a sign of the Holam and a sign of the Shin. Otherwise, you don't bother to mark the Shin. The Shin is that common. It's the Sin letter that would put the dot on the left of the letter. My name is, in a very cursive way, Shemi. A longer way of saying it is Hashem Shali. But we're not into that yet. Just simply a short phrase, Shemi Moshe. The next name is Shemi Yaakov. And let's go on that word on the board. And then finally, Shemi Michael. Again, notice the words Michael. 3 syllables. Mi, CV, long chirik, ha, kamatz underneath the half letter, or is it short or long? If it's a short kamatz, it needs to be accented. A short kamatz, open syllable, is irregular. You don't see her put an accent there, where coffin normally does if it's not the last syllable. So you assume that the emphasis is on the last syllable, Michael, and the kamatz that's medial is either open or closed, and it's one place removed from the accents, which you have right here. And each one of these names has a history. Michael is the phrase, who is like you, Lord? Michamocha El. And that word El is not a Hebrew, if I can say it, Jewish term in origin. It's a Mesopotamian term. It means gods with a small g. Elim are gods, G-O-D-S. The word gets incorporated into Hebrew, and the pagan part gets dropped out. Michael, who's like El. El here referring to the Holy One, blessed be He, not to a God or any God. The name Moshe, Moses, the most sacred of the prophets, his name will shock you. The name Moshe means nothing more than son of, which you know is Ben, which you know is the Aramaic word bar. Mose. If indeed Moses is of Egyptian background, then words like Tut Mose, son of Tut. Or the Hebrew Bible has another version. Moses gets his name because of a narrative of a baby cast into the water to save him from the Pharaoh and his marauders. And that baby was taken from the casket by the daughter of the Pharaoh. So Moshe is related to the Hebrew word drawn from the water. Drawn from the water. That's what Moses means. That's what Moses means from a Hebrew usage, according to Exodus. Names are very strange. Some names are beautifully inscribed, like Baruch, blessed. Other names are as confusing as can be. But the name of that person is one of the heroes of Israel. That name David, according to some scholars, is not even Jewish or Hebrew at all. It's a title, like Pharaoh is a title. Go figure that one out. And that name Yaakov, why is it that the Jews no longer call themselves Bnei Yaakov? Yaakov was a given name of a hero, the third patriarch. Let me just get that word on the board, and I need to tell you a story behind it. It's very important to understand names and words. First of all, the name itself. Yaakov was one of 2 children born at the same time. His elder brother was Esau. Let's get down Esau's name, Esau, with a sin letter, Esau. And this is Yaakov. Notice how I write the word Yaakov. Let's break down that word Yaakov. The Yud letter has a patach under it. That patach should be part of a closed syllable. The ayin cannot take a shvanach, so there's no shvanach in that ayin. There's no dagesh chazak in the ayin. And then the ayin has a shvana under it, the patach. So the first syllable is open. Short vowel open is irregular. Should it not be accented? It's not. Second syllable has the ayin letter, the patach underneath the ayin, the kuf letter, the media cholam, and the vet at the end. The second syllable is C ayin CVC and gets the accent. Rightly so. The media cholam always, wherever it appears, is accented. But what about this guy here? Should it also not get an accent? Yes, it doesn't. And so we have the theory of potentially closed. Skurabakor, or closed by the power of saying Yaakov, Yaakov. Potentially closed means the word originally was closed like this. The shvanach was originally underneath the ayin. It opened up when people began to say that word, and they didn't say Yaakov, 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 it sounded more like Yaakov. and that's how it's vocalized. And a question asked moments ago, minutes ago, is how pronunciation affects vocalization. Do you follow me, people? Yaakov is due to vocalization, is due to pronunciation. If this were done by grammatical rule, it should be Yaakov, or Shvanach, under the ayin. And this is not a singular example. You have multiple examples involving laryngeal letters where Shvanach should be called for, but it's opened up to a Hataf. And that word Yaakov, Jacob, the word actually means heel, Heal. Is that how you spell it? Or maybe you spell that word heal, Hel. I guess the word heal here is to cause something to be better, to heal someone. The word heal is the heel of a foot. Jacob's name, Yaakov, is heel spelled with Hel. Do you understand the anti-Semite? If he knows the meaning of the word Yaakov, he'll be willing to call Jews, you're a bunch of heels. And the question is, why is it that Isaac, Yitzchak, and Rivka named their baby a heel? Again, the Torah tells truth as it sees it. Jacob held on to the heel of his older brother. And for that reason. But then people don't like that word. And all of a sudden we have the change of Yaakov to Yisrael. And that's how you want to remember him. But Yisrael. Again, look very carefully at the word Yisrael. I have a yud, I have a chirik, and by now, by repetition, it's a CVC word. Get it? The chirik closed by the shvanach and the sin. The resh has a kamatz under it, one place removed from the action, CVC. The word translates sarita im Elohim v'im adam, fighting with God and fighting with man and prevailing. That's the nature of the people of Israel. On the other hand, Baruch and everybody who's called Baruch in the world, notice the fighting with God is not fighting with Yud He Vav He. It's fighting with El. Could I put it to you in modern terms? Once the exclusive name of God becomes identified with the universal G-O-D, then you fight it. Hashem, Hashem is unique only to Israel. But that's the use of language. Language universalizes our particular understanding of words. I might borrow, I might be too heavy with some of these words, but that's how you learn. You learn the grammar, learn also a derivation of the words. Ma Shemech is the next column. Shemi Miriam. Just the very name Miriam will imply it's a female name, I think. And then the word is not Ma Shemecha, that's for masculine gender, but Ma Shemech, feminine. And the name Miriam itself is another mystery word. The word itself means bitter, mar, bitter, and yam is sea, bitter water. How interesting. Moses drawn from the water. His sister Miriam, bitter waters. There's something about flood, oceans, water, with the very origin of the Jewish people. Shemi Dalia. Look at that word Dalia. Look at that dalet. You see that dalet there has Dagesh Chau in it. And again, if the word Shmi is going to be right before it, you might want to drop the Dagesh in that dalet because it's following a long vowel. But Edna is not concerned with that. Just the name itself, Dalia, make a careful letter, Dagesh Chau. And then Shmi Rina, the nun has a chirik in it. Shmi Rina. And notice the spelling of Rina without vowels. The resh has the yud. That's a way of getting the E sound across. The spelling with the vowels is the nun is double with the dagesh chazak. And then the next exercise, exercise B, where you have the first name and the last name. Shem Prati and Shem Mishpacha. Let's get down to Hebrew phrases. If you're talking about the individual name of a person, what's called the first name in my colloquial English, it's called Prati. The word prat means specific. Pratim is detail. So the specific one. Let's get down the phrase first. The word is prati. Okay, we're running out of pens right now. Just bear with me. Prati means specific or the first name, and then the second name, the family name is Mishpacha. And again, to break into syllables, C-I-N-C-V, first syllable, second syllable CV. Mishpacha is CVC. The pay letter is now following Shvanach. You get it? Following a consonant, so if it's plosive, the kamatz under it, last syllable CV with C in brackets. And the accent, unless told otherwise, is the last syllable of the word. And the kamatz, one place removed from the accent. So prati will be the first name, specific name of the person, and mishpacha is the name of members of the family. And that's what I see in this particular paragraph. Ma shimcha, as I continue to read, and the response in the case of masculine subjects is how she divides it up. Let me just get my pen closed. Shemi Moshe Alon. My name is Moshe Alon. Again, look at the vocalization. The Moshe word has a cholam, has also the mark of the shin. Look at the word alone, the patranitid aleph, closed by dagesh chazak and the lamet. Shmi David Kohen. Notice how I say Kohen, or rather, how I should correct myself. Not Shmi David Kohen, but David Kohen. The media cholam that occurs in the word should always be accented. Shmi Yaakov Yadin. And finally, Shemi, my name is Michael Sharon. In the case of a female, Ma Shemech. Again, she's consistent with that word Ma, the patach anit that mem, and the closing with a dagesh chazak in the following word. Ma Shemech, Shemi Leah Levi. Notice how I said it. Levi. Why not Levi? Again, it's either or. The medial vowels, cholam, always accented. Medial tsere, always, not always, but normally tracks the accents. It's not a question of regular, irregular. It just tracks the accents. So I stop with the word Levi rather than Levi. And the medial kamatz is either accented or one place removed from the accents. So if I say Leah Levi, notice in the next line, Shmi Daya Sharon. In the case of Sharon, I'm not saying Sharon, I'm hitting the last syllable. Because the kamatz can either be open or closed, and one place removed or accented. And then you have Shmi No'omi Carmel. That No'omi. Okay, let's take a look at that word that translates as Naomi. No'omi. Hear the way I say it? Let's write it on the board. Let's see its vocalization and see another example of Skurabakor, potentially closed. The heroine of the Book of Ruth. Well, it's Ruth herself, but there's also the mother-in-law, Naomi. Naomi in Hebrew is written like this. The vocalization is a short kamatz. The true vocalization should be Naomi. The short kamatz closed by the shvanach. But the pronunciation opened up that shvanach to an or sound. Naomi, Naomi. So the shvanach got converted to a chataf kamatz. That's how you see it. This is how you break it down, CI and CV. And then you ask, what about the syllable? Short sound for the kamats. You know it's an open syllable. Where's the accent? The emphasis is on the last syllable. And the answer is, it originally was closed, but the shvanach opened up to hatakamats. That's how you write it down originally and developed into that. So we've seen two examples of that. Yaakov is one, and Naomi is another, of the shvanach opening up to a shvanach and seeing the syllable to be potentially closed, because originally it was a shvanach. I'm getting my exercise as I sit and up and sit. I continue to read. Okay, Shmi Naomi Carmel. Okay, the last name of the Naomi is Carmel, CVC, and the second syllable is CVC. I'm on now the next page, page 29. Shmi Rachel Kohen, Shmi Ziva Oren. And it's interesting with the word Oren, unlike the word Kohen, she shows the accent. What is going on here? Should not the accent in the word Kohen be over that first syllable, the Ko letter? Why doesn't she not show it? I don't know, except to say it wasn't obvious when they did this book and printed that it was missing an accent mark. Or it could be that the student of the Cohen and Loudon basically just didn't do it. Get his name properly. Coffin, not Loudon. Anyway, the accent is over that Media Holam. So it should be Shemi Rachel Cohen, not Cohen, like it is Shemi Ziva Oren, if that's the final nun. The next line, Shemi Leah Keshet. And notice with that word Keshet, she shows the accent over the Sego. Why so? A Sego is a short vowel. A short vowel should be part of a closed syllable. If it's not closed, it gets emphasized. It's not Keshet, it's Keshet. Next word, Tauya Hanan. And these words all have meanings to them. Rachel and Leah, for example, two of the wives' names of the four patriarchs. Leah and Rachel both being married to Jacob, to Yaakov, to Israel. One is a U, E-W-E. One is, I guess, a lamb. Actually, well, Rachel definitely is a U, E-W-E. All right, the word Talia Hanan. The word Yah can represent the name of God, and Tal represents dew, D-E-W, dew from God. CVC, Tal, and CV with C in brackets for the word Yah. Last letter A is a vowel marker. The next line, Shemi Tzviya Livnat. Look at that name Tzviya. Look carefully at that Yud. The Yud has a negation in it, which implies it's doubling that letter. And the chirik before is a short chirik being closed by a dagesh chazak in the Yud that follows. So the first syllable is CI-CVC, and the second is CVC with the letter C in brackets. And finally, the word Hadassah. Notice how I said Hadassah. Or is it Hadassah? Maybe it's Hadassah. And here you have a question of a word that occurs, which is the name of a hospital. It's also the name of a person. So back to the reading exercises, where I believe Edna shows those two words and essentially makes a distinction. If I can find it very quickly, it goes back to pages. Oh, I see the word Devorah here. It's probably around page 20, or maybe beyond that. Okay, I'm not going to spend time looking for it, but Edna Coffin does make a distinction between the two words. Okay, I can't see it right away. Or maybe I should see it by now. 1 minute. I see the word Devora and Devora. But the two words for Hadassah and Hadassah, I don't see right away. Okay, on page 2425, she plays upon the word Devora and Devora, the word for Deborah, the word for D, and the word for B. And she has other words like Bira and Bira. Bira is the word for capital, or rather beer, and Bira, with the accent on the last syllable, is the word for capital city. Or maybe I am mistaken. I thought you would have both those words. Anyway, Hadassah, with the accent on the first syllable, is the name of a person, individual name, and Hadassah, the second syllable, is basically the hospital. I could be mistaken on that one. My feeling is what I said is correct. Okay, I don't see it here. Okay, back to our reads right now. So the word Hadassah accents the first syllable. If you say that word Hadassah, second syllable, that's the hospital. Then we have a new phrase now, exercise E, Be'ezer Rehov Tagar. The word Rehov is the Hebrew word for street. The word translates as street. It translates also as avenue. Let's get down the word on the board. And here I think another qualification needs to be made. The word Rachov by itself is the absolute form, Rachov with a kamatz. She gives Rehov, and no doubt because it's followed by the name of the street. So when you use the word Rehov, you mean street of. What is the street name? If you mean just simply street, as the word is just simply a word, street, then the word Rehov means that. Okay, so the vocalization. This means a street, this means street of. Rehov and Rachov. As we continue to read. Be'ezer Rehov, and you notice in the text, she has the vocalization with the shvana. Be'ezer Rehov, on what street Atagar? The word to live. Let's get that word down. The word to live in Hebrew, to dwell. The shorish of that word, the root of that word, is Gimel Vav Resh. We are far from learning verbs, but one day you will. And conjugating that verb in the present tense masculine singular is gar for the masculine singular, I-U, he, gar. Gara will be the feminine one. And then we have the plural, garim and garot. But for this reading, gar is masculine singular and gara is feminine singular, and these forms are in the so-called present tense. I begin to read. Be'ezer Rehov Tagar. In what street do you live? Ani gar b'Rehov HaYarkon. I live in the city. B'Rehov. I live in the street of the Yarkon. Again, it's not so much the meaning of the words, it's just the Hebrew. She used the letter bet there. The letter bet is your preposition. Ani gar Rehov would not make sense. I live street of. I live on the street of or in the street of. So then you have that letter bet. Normal point is with a shvana, unless the bet letter comes in contact with a word that begins with a shvana. And so if the word Rehov means street of, then you have a shva cluster. When a shvana is followed by a shvana, It's called a Shva cluster. You break the cluster by changing the Shana of the first letter into a vowel. And so when it comes to when it comes to the letter bet, or what's known as the Bakal letters, the bet letter, the Kav letter, the Lam letter. The bet letter means in, on, or with. The Kav letter means like or as. The Lamed letter means to, of, for. So I live on the street. The bet means in or on. The be needs to change and is pointed with a chirik. That chirik is called a light vowel. It's a nuakala, a light vowel. It's a force vowel. Miracle. Well, if the word has a laryngeal letter and has a hataf under it, then it will take over that sound. We're not going into grammar right now. It's just the need for that bet letter, normally pointed as a shvana, is pointed with a chirik before a letter of the next word has a shvana under it. You're right what you said. When we see a word like that, we'll go into that. Anyway, in the street of or on the street of. And the name of the street here is Yarkon. Yarkon is a well-known street in Tel Aviv.
Where's it at?
The street itself?
Yeah.
In Tel Aviv. I'm sure
Is it in downtown or where is it?
It's by the sea.
By the beach?
By the beach, yeah. I might be completely mistaken now.
There's a lot. Tel Aviv is on the coast, isn't it? You can see the beach from there.
It's known for many reasons. One thing is known for its embassies. There are different embassies located there. It probably has a beautiful view of the Mediterranean. It's also hotels are there. It's also Bate Zonot are there. All kinds of things there.
Look at the pastries too.
As far as the embassies are concerned, one note of historical importance: the United States and Israel signed in the last 48 hours official declaration that the American embassy will never be removed from Jerusalem. It's an official declaration of our government, which is at least a good sign in these days of turmoil. Anyway, back to our hero, Anigar Berchov Hayakon. And notice again, Hayakon, that hey, the patak, the gish chasak, and that yud. Anigar Berchov Herzl. I doubt if there's hardly any city in Israel that does not have a street by the name of Herzl. Herzl, named after the father of modern Zionism, or more specifically, political Zionism. Anigar Berchov Hayam. Look at the word Hayam, Dagesh Chazak and Ayud, following the Patak Anita Hey. Hamalachim is the next word. Anigar Berchov Hamalachim. Notice that Mem has a dot in it, a Shva under it. Dagesh is Chazak, closing the Patak Anita Hey, and the Shva under that letter, which is dotted, is a Shvana. It's not Hamlachim, it's Hamilachim. Hamilachim. And then finally, the last street mentioned, Anigar Berchov Geula. The word Geula means redemption. The next paragraph on page 29, last paragraph on that page, Efo At. At is a feminine second person singular, so a feminine singular person governs the word Gara. And look very carefully in that letter Gimel, there is a Dagesh Kal. Look, however, at exercise C, Efo Tagar, and there's no Dagesh Kal in that Gimel, the word Gar. How come? How come? Somebody forgot to put it there. It's not a question of not being there. It should be there. The Gimel letter beginning a word should have a Dagesh Kal. And here we have street names. Anigara Betel Aviv. Hyphenated Hebrew is not Hebrew. It's picked up from Indo-European culture. Tel is an archaeological tell. Aviv is the Hebrew word for spring. Tel Aviv is the Hebrew word to translate Theodor Herzl's Alte Neuland, old, new land. Old is ancient history, new is contemporary moments. My essay on the state of Judaica, Jewish studies in the academy, has that concept behind it. Then and now, the whole history of Zionism, what it was then and what it is now. My essay. Anyway, Tel Aviv, named after Herzl's Alton Islands. The name Yerushalayim. Look very carefully. She has Yerushalayim and the accent over that lamed. The lamed is a patach underneath it. Patach is a short vowel. Open syllable gets accented. And notice how she writes Yerushalayim. Let's take a look at this, as long as we're getting into some grammar as well. The normal pointing of the bet letter is a shvana. We already see it pointed with a chirik. If it's a fixed word, it has a shvana under the first letter. Now, what if the first letter is a yud? Shvana under it. First, let me write down the word. Yerushalayim, C-I-N, C-V, first syllable. Second syllable, C-V. Third syllable, C-V. Fourth syllable with the yud chirik mem is C-V-C. That kamatz is one place removed from the accent, second to last syllable. Patach, open syllable, needs to be accented, otherwise it's irregular. Now we're bringing the bet into it. The bet and the shvana underneath the yud is a shva cluster. You break the shva cluster by pointing the bet with a chirik. And then we go one step further, we drop the shva underneath the yud. And that's the rule of the bet letter. If the bet letter is a fixed word that begins only with a yud and a shvana under it, you point the bet with a long chirik. That's why you don't see no shva, you don't see any shva underneath the yud in Coffin's book. The word is Bi Yerushalayim, not Bi Yerushalayim, Bi Yerushalayim.
So when they say Lehana Haba Beirut, how do they say it? Next year in Jerusalem.
Oh, Jerusalem by itself is Yerushalayim.
Lehana, Leshana Haba Be Yerushalayim.
Okay, Leshana Ba Bi Yerushalayim.
Oh, that's the correct pronunciation.
Good point. What Baruch is asking is a Passover phrase, which, by the way, needs to be changed.
It's incorrect. That's what
Yeah,
saying.
Bi
This is
Yerushalayim.
the correct.
No, the phrase itself,
The
Mishana.
grammar,
Well, the phrase is Mishana Haba, meaning next year in Jerusalem. No more next year. It's now. The state of Israel has been existing since 48. Complete Jerusalem has been is official since the first presidency of what's his name?
so that
President
was
Trump.
like an aspirational saying
Of the future.
to reside in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Could it be from the Messianic one when Mashiach comes?
Right, but Mashiach has come already. A secular Mashiach, the state of Israel being
Who,
established.
baby?
How's that?
Who's secular Mashiach? Who, baby?
Secular Mashiach is the state of Israel.
Oh, secular. Well, yeah, but that's not the Torah. But if you can look at it.
Mashiach, wait a minute, wait a minute. I'll give you rabbinic tradition.
Yosef, Ben David, Yosef, Ben
Yosef.
Joseph, and then there's another one, Yosef, Ben Benjamin, or something like that. I forget his
Okay.
name. Those
Whatever.
are different ones.
Anyway, but
let's not detract from that and focus on the Hebrew.
my point is, if you want to say Shana Ba Bi Yerushalayim, then the word is next year B. The word would be B, not Bia. It's Bi Yerushalayim, as she points out. And the bet has other pointings, but we haven't seen the original letters yet. So far, we've seen 3 different pointings by the bet: a shvana under it, a chirik, and then now a chirik only with the yud. The yud with a shvana under it, the shva drops completely, and the appearance looks like a long chirik. Bi Yerushalayim. Okay, let's get to what she has here are major cities of contemporary Israel today. Ani gara b'Haifa. That's another word that has to be corrected. People think the word in Hebrew is Haifa. Haifa is an English word for Haifa. The name of that city, the 3rd best known city in Israel, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa.
It's like, hey, how you doing? Haifa, not Haifa.
No,
It's like a hey,
I
like
know what you're
Haifa.
saying, but I'm afraid that corrections have to be made as well. The word Haifa, let's just get that word in Hebrew. The origin of the name Haifa comes from two Hebrew words. The word is Hof and the word Yafeh. Yafeh means nice, Hof means shore, a nice shore. Haifa is the equivalent in America of San Francisco. San Francisco with its hills, Haifa with its hills, with its mountains, with its beautiful landscape. So from Hof Yafeh, somehow that word Haifa came about. Has nothing to do with hay. If it has something to do with hay, then Hebrew has a het there, not a hay. A hay. It's meant to be Hof Yafeh. Why don't we say Haifa in English? I don't know. We say Haifa.
In Hebrew, you say Hof Yafeh.
That's the origin.
To the Israeli say, it sounds to me like
They don't
Haifa.
say Hof Yafeh, they don't say Haifa. But the origin of the word Haifa is Hof Yafeh. Like the origin of Tel Aviv, archaeological means the past, Tel, T-E-L-L in English, and Aviv is meant to be something new, springing, coming alive, like the season of spring. And then you find out it's associated with a German name. Herzl did not write Hebrew, he wrote German from Austria.
He was Jewish, wasn't
Well, yes, he was a Jew. Anyway, let's go on here. The next word is Ashkelon. And Ashkelon is one of the 5 cities, states, if you want to call it that, of the ancient Philistines. It's now part of the state of Israel. Ekron and Ashkelon and Gath and Gaza or Aza. Anyway, Ashkelon. Look at the word. The word has 2 shvas, one after the other. First shva is a shvanach, second is a shvanah. So we've seen 2 things, we've seen several things with the shva. During today's lesson, if a word has a dot and a shva under it, it's a shvanah. If a word has 2 shvas now, back to back, first is nach, the other is na. And then finally, as we continue, Nigara, Biv'er Sheva. Okay, let's take a look at that word, Biv'er Sheva. Here you have the word Be'er. Be'er means a well, W-E-L-L. Sheva means 7. So according to tradition, the name Beersheba or Beersheva in Hebrew, Be'er Sheva, is based on a folk tale of a city in the desert that has 7 water wells. The word is Be'er. Watch what I'm about to do. Be'er.
wells were dug by Abraham?
Yes. Then you add the letter Bet to it. There's a Shva cluster. You break the cluster by pointing the Bet with a chirik, and then you get rid of this Dagesh Kal. By itself, the Bet in Be'er is a Dagesh Kal. But if you careful at the beginning of the word, explosive. I'm now adding a Bet with a Shvanah. Even if I leave the Shvanah there, the Dagesh Kal drops out. But we told you if you have 2 Shva'im Na'im at the beginning of the word, the first one becomes a short chirik. If I leave the dot in that Bet there, it'll behave like a Dagesh Chazak. It drops out. And that Bet letter is closed by a Shvanah. Originally was not. This is an additional symbol. Biv-er. Biv-er in the city of Sheva.
It's a major city now in Israel, isn't it?
Yes. You have the famous university, University Ben Gurion.
Well, where's Hadassah University?
Hadassah?
Yeah.
Hadassah is located as a medical school of Hebrew University.
Where?
Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
No, Be'er Sheva, to my knowledge, probably has small colleges, like a 2-year college, but they basically have the University of Ben
Yeah, no,
Gurion.
it's a urban metropolitan center. I'm still thinking of it like when Abraham left
Yeah.
it.
No, it's a big city. And then
Put
finally,
that on the map.
the last city here. And again, here there's also an error. If you look very carefully at the last line of page 29, Tiberia, she has nothing underneath the resh. How come? There's nothing grammatically correct about that. It's just that the writer, the printing of this book, first the consonants, then they came with a handwriting, and they did the vowels.
It's missing a spana. It looks
That
like a patak. There should be a spana.
doesn't look like anything. Underneath the resh is nothing.
Oh, and this book is
Well,
patak.
maybe you got something else.
Yeah.
Well, let's first write out the word Tiver. Yeah, there should be a shva underneath the resh. The text that I have does not have a shva at all. Well, let's just break into syllables to CIN, CVC, that resh letter shvanach. Last syllable CV and C in brackets. Tiberius, Tiberia. And the so-called 4 holy cities or sacred cities, Tiberias is one, Tzfat is another, Hebron is a third, and Yerushalayim is a fourth, with Jerusalem being the sacred city.
You want to take a break?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's wrap it up for right now. Take a break and then come back.
No, I went beyond the hour. I know that.